Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1937A, and today's date is August 7th, 2019, and the title of the episode is, How Do You Make a Central Bank Obsolete? This is how. Now, before I get started, did you know that every year the U.S. Mint releases new coins into its America the Beautiful 5-ounce coin series? Incredibly, Noble Gold has managed to secure some. And as an Independence Day special, they're doing a combo of their own best-selling Trump 2020 Freedom 1-ounce silver coin with one of the America the Beautiful coins at a discount of $25 for the two during July or until they sell out of these coins. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and use the code X22 Report 25 to receive this incredible discount. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking about how Trump is getting ready and preparing the new economic system. Everything that we see happening right now is so he can get rid of the central bank and move us into a people's economy where the people are in control. And if you look very, very carefully at what Trump is doing now with the central bank, you start to realize that he's positioning them so they're completely obsolete. Think about what he's doing. Think about his strategy. Think about what the central bank does. Think about their mandate, where they need to create no inflation, they need to keep the prices stable, and they need to keep everyone employed. But what has the central bank been doing? Everything but that. What is the central bank doing now? What does the central bank do altogether? Well, they've been controlling interest rates, and they loan the government currency with interest attached. Now think about what he's doing, and we'll be talking about that in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about the trade war. This is the mainstream media out there saying that we're in this incredible trade war, and the Dow is going down because of fear and all of this other stuff. Actually, if you look today, it did exactly what we thought was going to happen. We saw a dead cat bounce. The market's starting to move back up. Gold is now over 1,500. And guess what? Trump is making the case to have the Federal Reserve cut interest rates even further. But before we get to that, let's talk about what Trump is doing with China. Trump right now has the upper hand when it comes to China and the tariffs. Now, we know that China is retaliating through devaluing their currency. This is the only thing they have left. Remember, China doesn't really buy that many American goods. So they really can't retaliate in that way with tariffs. It just won't work. This is why they resorted to devaluing their currency manipulation. And they're doing this because they're trying to fight against what Trump is doing. They're trying to keep their system alive. But it could backfire. The PBOC's move to allow the RMB to weaken against the dollar offsets the sting of tariffs on Chinese exports, but it carries two important risks for China. First, the United States retaliates to the currency devaluation, which is exactly what happened when Trump and the U.S. Treasury acted to officially label China a currency manipulator. This is the first time since the 90s. I wonder if Trump actually positioned all of this so they would actually come out and say they are a currency manipulator. I think this was part of his plan. Now, this action really doesn't have any immediate consequences, but it acts as a warning to China and can open the door to future penalties on Chinese imports to America. The second risk is that the PBOC is unable to stop a further RMB slide, which would cause capital outflows and tight money in China, which would crash China's all-important property market and thus its economy. Trump, he's maneuvering to place China in a corner. And while he's doing this, he's making sure that he has the upper hand and he has all the leverage. The economic relationship between America and China really is unfair. And we've known this. We've known the past administrations, the deep state, they've maneuvered it and created this monster. And when Trump took office, the average U.S. tariff on Chinese goods was around 3%, and the average Chinese tariff was around 10%. A multitude of hidden rules restricted American firms' ability to do business in China. Worse, China has long had quasi-official policy of stealing U.S. intellectual property. U.S. firms that seek to operate in China, they are forced to partner with a Chinese competitor via joint venture requirements. That competitor gets to see their business practices and trade secrets. And to gain a license to operate in China, American firms are forced to hand intellectual property to Chinese officials. Often, these officials give these corporate secrets to local Chinese companies. Now, why is this? I mean, this was here before Trump. What were the other administrations doing? Well, they weren't working in the best interest of the people, were they? How about when a Chinese company comes to America? Does America do this to China? Absolutely not. Right now, there are almost 1,000 separate FBI investigations into Chinese corporate espionage. At least one in all 50 U.S. states. So what's Trump's mission to fix all this? Well, he has Lighthizer and a team, and they're trying to work this out with China. They're looking to increase intellectual property protection and enforcement, and protectionism measures aimed at restricting the import of U.S. goods, and this is among many other things. It is completely lopsided right now, and that's why Trump is maneuvering to put China in the corner to make them do what we want. And he has them manipulating their currency, which allowed the United States to call them or designate them as a currency manipulator. Now, Trump is going to manipulate the U.S. currency. Now, this has many different agendas. One of them is to get China to say, okay, we're going to even things out. The other is to drive the central bank to be completely obsolete and create a crisis to move us into a new economic system. Now, we know that the Fed cut the rates by a quarter point. And we know this is not what Trump wanted. He wanted a lot more. Trump tweeted out the following: 3 more central banks cut rates. Our problem is not China. We are stronger than ever. Money is pouring into the U.S. while China is losing companies by the thousands to other countries, and their currency is under siege. Our problem is the Federal Reserve that is too proud to admit their mistake of acting too fast and tightening too much, and that I was right. They must cut rates bigger and faster and stop their ridiculous quantitative tightening now. Yield curve is at too wide a margin and no inflation. Incompetence is a terrible thing to watch, especially when things could be taken care of so easily. We will win anyway, but it would be much easier if the Fed understood, which they don't, that we are competing against other countries, all of whom want to do well at our expense. Now, if you notice, he's not blaming China, he's blaming the Fed once again. And what's very interesting is that as Trump continually bashes the Fed, what is happening right now? Well, it looks like the odds of the Fed cutting rates, they're going up faster and faster. And it looks like the Fed might be cutting rates a lot sooner than everyone thinks. And we do believe that stimulus will be coming a lot sooner than everyone believes. Now think about what Trump is doing. As the Fed continually lowers rates and finally gets to zero, maybe we'll go into negative territory, who knows? What happens with the central bank? Well, we're already at zero, so the government can now borrow money with no interest attached. It's like the government creating their currency by themselves, right? Trump doesn't have to call on the Federal Reserve to do anything. I don't need you now. We're already at zero. Now I can do what I need to do. This is the beginning stages of making the central bank completely obsolete. Think about this for a second. If there was no central bank, would the government be creating their own currency without interest attached? Yes. And what Trump is doing, he's pushing the central bank to the side so he can operate independently and do what he needs to do for the economy, for this transition. And remember, he's controlling the narrative. He's controlling what's going to come next. And once he has everything where he wants it, and once he shows the people and the world that, look, with the central bank doing nothing, we can really do some incredible things with the economy. Now the central bank decided they want to raise rates. And they already started, and they want to tighten now. This is not going to be good for the economy. We were doing so well. Why would they be doing this? And this is when Trump is really going to hit the Fed really hard. Because as you can see, he's been continually contradicting, continually calling them out like no other president. He is setting up the central bank. And the plan is working. Look what's happening with gold. Look at the market. Look what's happening with China. It's all happening the way they planned. And this will continue. They need to bring gold up to the proper price to destroy the Fed. They need to keep the system going long enough. He needs to rework the trade deals because eventually the United States, the Federal Reserve note, I should say, will no longer be the reserve currency. We're going to need real trade deals. We're going to have to produce again. As a nation, we need companies back in the United States. This is what Trump and the Patriots are preparing for. And this is exactly what they're doing. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.